Hi guys, I'm joined by Barry Rubin, Bill Johnson, two former Neville Tigers with a long coaching pedigree around not only the state but the country, and we are just so happy for y'all to be able to be here on the same day, especially with y'all's schedules. So welcome back to Neville High School, guys.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We're honored to be here.
I'll start with you, Bill. I mean, it just seems like every time you think you might retire, you pick up another championship.
Well, you know, it's sort of a hard game to walk away from, but there comes a time that you've got to walk away from it. But, you know, it's been good to me. Football's been a great game to me. It's given me everything I've had in my life, and it all started here at Neville High School.
And let's talk about Neville High School, Barry, a little bit, you know, coming out of, you know, this field, same field. It's a little different than it was. We were talking about that as we were beginning here today. But I mean, it's a little bit different than it was. But I really want to ask both of y'all, this place, the tradition, the history, all that, but the foundation that it built for both of you guys. Talk about the impact that Neville High School had on you and allowing you to move forward in life.
No doubt. I've learned so much here. Grew up here. Coach Brown, Coach Smith, Coach Reagan, they were phenomenal. Even at Lee Junior High was, you know. But it definitely, I learned so much by going to school, playing football here, and then being around people like Bill.
Bill, and about same question to you.
Well, it all started here for me. Mm-hmm. You know, my story is I was sitting on the heater at Lee Junior High, and Van Lay walked by and walked past me. Matter of fact, when he got to the end of the door, he turned around and looked at me and said, "Why don't you play football?" Well, you know, your life changed in moments, you know, and my life changed right there because that's the first time I started getting on a football field, and it's something I've done every day of my life since that day. And it's given me everything. It's given me every pair of shoes, every meal, everything I got in life. So I'd say it had a pretty big impact on my life.
Well, after you leave Neville, both of y'all ended up graduating from Northwestern.
Correct.
In a couple of different paths. Take me through your path out of here into college.
I signed with LSU out of high school and played running back there. Then when I came back for my sophomore year, they redshirted me and moved me to linebacker. Mm-hmm. And I was not a linebacker. And probably the place I would have gone if I wouldn't have gone to LSU was Northwestern.
Yeah.
And I had people like Bill and Ben Loper and Petey Payrow and Coach Miller and Joe Peace. They were all at Northwestern, who I loved. And I said, that's really the place for me. So then I transferred there and had 3 wonderful years there. I loved Northwestern and graduated from there, and that was an awesome place. I'm so glad I went there.
Both of y'all, I believe, are in the Northwestern Hall of Fame, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right there. So, I mean, that's another deal. When do you get Hall of Fame here at Neville? Started up there. All right, Bill, same deal. You went straight to Northwestern.
You know, I had a little different path. You know, when you know, I love football, and it was something great for me, but you know, I didn't have any scholarship offers or anything, so I set out my first year, worked at the paper mill. Man, I thought I was going to be at the paper mill the rest of my life, you know. And so one night, Al Miller was at Neville was having a basketball tournament, and I saw him in there. It was in December. He said, "Didn't you go to Tech or do something?" I said, "No, I'm not going to school." He said, "Man, I'm going to coach at Northwestern. You ought to come down there and try it out." So the next semester, I went down there and walked on, and there it goes.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how, I mean, you mentioned guys like Al Miller, even it's come full circle for him back here as well. And it's been it's crazy how the Neville, I guess, I don't know, not mystique, but just it's like everybody kind of, you always go somewhere, wherever you go, there's somebody from Monroe, and then you find somebody that can trace you back to these roots here on Forsythe Avenue. And it's that chance meeting for you coming back here led you into a lifelong career. And
that's right.
And from after college, both of y'all went straight into coaching. I mean, is that kind of where y'all's paths went? Did you ever think about anything else?
It did. No, you know what? Not really. When I went to college, my goal was to graduate and come back to Neville and coach. You know, that's what I wanted
what
to
you
do.
wanted to do.
And then when I graduated, I stayed on at Northwestern as a graduate assistant football coach with Bill. And then after a semester there, Al Miller became the head strength coach at Northeast and asked me to come there and be his graduate assistant. I always loved working out and lifting weights. It was a big part of playing football. And I said, you know what, I can always get back into football coaching. Now, let me see if I love this. You know, and I went there with Coach Miller and loved it, and loved him, and it, you know, I stayed with it since then.
So, I mean, you win a national championship while you're at ULM. or
1987,
NLU back then, yeah. And that was just the start. We'll get into some of these championships because y'all got a few of them on your resume with the teams that you've been associated with. But Bill, I mean, going into coaching, how did
sort
it
of my
start?
career, and you know, it sort of though I was always sort of the last one in. I went down Northwestern, ended up playing, and had a pretty good career, and the coaches were good to me. And Al Miller, Dave again, and came in, and about the last semester of school, I wasn't doing too good and everything. They called me in, said, "Man, well, you crazy, man? What are you gonna do in your life?" I said, "Man, you ain't gonna believe this. I got a job at the paper mill. I'm gonna be able to go back and go to work." And right then, both of them looked at me like I was a fool and said, "You're stupid. You're going to coach football." And I said, "I am." And I've been doing it ever since. So that's sort of how I got in it. I was told to do it. And, there were some days, them last years of coaching, I felt like calling up and asking them, "Hey, man, can I quit?" Y'all told me 50 years ago to start coaching, and I'm still doing it. I think it's time to stop.
Yeah.
Well, championships kind of run. Bill, you're on the 72 team that's had their 50-year reunion a few weeks ago here. One of the most storied legendary tales here at Neville High School. But both of y'all, it's kind of like y'all were bit by the championship bug. You start out at ULM, and y'all had college national championships, both Super Bowls. Bill, you just were a part of a USFL, the new USFL championship.
Little new league, yeah.
Talk about, maybe what it takes or what y'all believe it takes. I mean, you're in the weight room, you've been coach of defensive linemen, but around some of these coaches that have had influence on your lives and kind of maybe teaching you. These championships don't come cheap,
No, they don't.
They sure don't. When I was at Green Bay, we had you can go back, you can always pick the head coach at ULM. We had Pat Collins, phenomenal. Then at Green Bay, we had Mike Holmgren, and then Kansas City, we have Coach Reed. Those are all three just top-notch coaches. And then you always need a great quarterback, and each one of them had great quarterbacks, and good team camaraderie and a good coaching staff too. It just kind of all gels together.
Bill, you were part of not only a Miami national championship back was Jimmy Johnson still?
Yeah,
right
Jimmy
there?
Johnson,
Jimmy?
it sure was.
But you've had some of the most prolific college championship experiences because the Hurricanes were the big deal back in the 80s right there.
Yeah,
when
it
you
was
were
in
with them.
87, I think, or 88. We won the national championship, beat Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. We won the national championship in 19 down with Coach O at LSU. Rube's right. It takes a good leader, and it takes I always said it took a defensive front and a good quarterback to win a championship. But biggest thing in all that I learned is that a champion team is a team that walks hand in hand together. And when you win that championship, just like that 72 championship and even the 87 national championship, Miami and 09, we won the Super Bowl down in New Orleans. Those teams walk together for life. And it's something that you'll remember all your life. And usually it was because of the team, the camaraderie, the way the team worked together, the chemistry of the team, the unity of the team, and what sports is all about, of being a team. And I think that's the most important thing of what championships are.
Yeah, I mean, common goals.
Goals.
And everybody getting buy-in from your guys.
If I really knew the true formula of it, I'd be writing books. I wouldn't be sitting
It's almost like sometimes it's organic. You don't know. You've got teams that you think are going to be the end-all, be-all, and then it's sometimes the ones that surprise you that come together and gel.
Yeah.
Barry, in the strength game, I mean, you've been in strength coaching for ever since you got out.
Yes,
You
since
talked about-
1981.
Exactly, in 81, and you're a member of a lot of strength and conditioning coaches, Hall of Fames, and it's been a lifelong, it seems like it's turned into a lifelong passion for you. Let's talk about some of the changes that it was. I mean, you walked into this weight room here at Neville and it's a whole lot different than the weights y'all were lifting in the 70s. But how has it kind of progressed from the 80s to today?
You know, you still got to stick with the basics, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, you know, what year it is. You know, you never beat some type of Olympic lifting, some type of squatting, pressing overhead, bench pressing, RDLs, things like that. I think the big thing is with some of the dynamic warm-ups, a lot of the correctional exercises, you know, some of the prehab and things like that have changed, which has been good.
Yeah.
But your bread and butter are those core lifts, and then you pepper in everything else. And then, you know, as far as running, sprinting, and conditioning, that's so important. And throwing med balls and jumping up and down on boxes and things like that. That's performance training. That's how you become your best, is by doing those kind of things.
Well, at Neville, it seems to be, we've watched the difference as it's progressed. When this place opened,
Yeah.
it was a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of that. And now it's gone more to what you just said. It's kind of evolved into this. And Coach Herndon has been here for a long time and has learned a lot, I'm sure, from, you know, I know Al.
Oh, yeah.
Al Miller had come back through
yeah.
here, and Eric has been a godsend
Oh,
for these kids, not just the football program, but the.
And you know what? That man is as good as anybody. He is excellent. Neville is very fortunate to have him.
Definitely. All right, Bill. So defensive line, from now we've got these high-powered offenses.
Well, you know, footballs are still the same. You still got to block, you still got to catch, still got to tackle. You still got to be in great condition, play with great effort and everything. But it has changed and evolved. When we were here, to split out a guy or not have two guys in the backfield or anything like that was crazy. You know, I think now they play with the whole field. They spread the field out. You got to be able to shrink the field now. Back in the old days, it was played like they say in a phone booth. So the game's changed. You know, you have to stay up with the things and the change, and it changes all the time. It's changing. You just don't realize it's changing. And then you look back in 2 or 3 years, say, well, we used to not do it that way. You know, just by formations, things like that. So the game's changed, but it's like Rube said, the core things that make football still there. You still got to block. You still got to tackle. You still got to catch the football. You still got to play within the rules and those type things.
Well, over y'all's, you know, years in the coaching profession, I'm sure there's some good stories. Is there anything that maybe stood out, that maybe a seminal moment outside of that, or just something interesting that a lot of people may not know? I'll just throw it out to each of you if anything comes to the top of your mind.
The story I usually tell is about the Super Bowl with the Saints. And the reason, and I tell that if I'm in Louisiana.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm in Florida, I'm going to tell a story about the 87 hurricanes. You know, it just depends on where you're at. But being in Louisiana, I always tell the story about the onside kick in the Super Bowl. And the way that came about was we started watching the tape. We had 2 weeks, played Minnesota, and probably the craziest game ever been in, down in the Dome, overtime, kicked that field goal.
That's the
Saints,
hell is frozen over.
Yeah,
game,
hell's
if you
frozen
remember
over.
that.
The Saints, pigs have flown. Saints are going to the Super Bowl, all that stuff. So we go in, we celebrate that night. We sort of take Friday off. We got the week off. And we start on Tuesday. We start watching the tape. And on defense, we sort of figure out we can't stop this guy. There ain't no way we're going to win this game unless we try to take the ball away or get an interception. So we start thinking about how a takeaway or some kind of way. So we start thinking, how can we take the ball away? How can we steal a possession? And we came up with the ambush, the onside kick. Greg McMahon and Sean and all them. And said, if we don't get a turnover in the first half, we're gonna do something to steal a possession. I'll never forget, as long as I live, we were walking into the dressing room. Sean Payton looked at all of us on defense and says, we're onside and coming out, and you better take care of it. Really sorry. You got my back. Yeah, sure. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, Thomas Morissette was a rookie, so they go in there and they tell him that he's going to onside kick coming out. Well, here's the funny part of the story. He's a rookie, and he's never onside kicked in a game before in his life. And so we're looking for Morstead, and we can't find Morstead. He's in the bathroom throwing up. You know what I mean? Said, man, you got to kick this ball now. You got to kick this ball. We got to get this ball. I go out there at halftime, and I don't know where to stand. I don't know what to do. All I look around and see these 80,000 people finna get a shock of their life. And then we onside it, and the rest history. And that's how the game went. But
it was the turning point.
It was the turning point in the game. It was a gutsy call, I can tell you.
Definitely was. Definitely was. So, any people, coaches that have been like just a big influence on y'all's lives, personally, professionally, any people that stand out?
Definitely Al Miller, for both of us.
Yeah.
That's how I got my start in strength coaching. And, all my coaches have been phenomenal. Coach Brown, all the way, A.L. Williams, and all the coaches I've been with. But as far as my strength and condition, Coach Miller, and then Kent Johnson, that's how I got in the NFL. He had coached me at Northwestern, and he was the head strength coach at Green Bay. And they told him to hire an assistant, and he offered me the job, and I went there with him. And so those are the two main ones that got me going. And then when he left and went to Seattle with Mike Holmgren, the general manager at the time, Ron Wolf, told our new coach to come in just to move me up. He said, we're going to move you up as the head guy. So, and also Ron Wolf. So those would be
some of the top of the
yes,
top of your
that helped me in my
helped
career.
You in your
Yes,
career.
sir.
Bill, same question.
Oh, man. There's a lot of angels in my life. I would have to, I've been lucky to coach with a lot of Hall of Fame coaches. I can Mike Shanahan, Sean Payton, Dan Reeves, Jimmy Johnson, you can name R.C. Slocum, you can name them. But I go back and I think about the people that had the most effect on me in my life, and it would come back right here on Forsythe Avenue. And I would have to, and it'd take all day. I can start naming names. Van Lay. He got me off the heater. He got me into a football uniform. I never will forget, I went out for the first day at Lee, and they'd been practicing for 2 weeks. And everybody had a gold helmet on. I had a white helmet on. Everybody's got a black jersey on. I got no white jersey. Didn't have enough equipment. I just the old guy out there, just sort of new guy. But it changed my life. And then you come here and you got Willie Reagan, you got Buck Stewart, you got Chick Childress, you got Sonny Smith. Gosh, who am I leaving out? Charlie Brown. Coach Roosevelt Rankin was here.
Yeah.
Here at those days.
Still here.
Still here.
All those people had some type of influence. Charlie Brown, he used to amaze me. I probably ended up being as close to Charlie Brown as anybody. I'll never forget Charlie Brown. Boy, that's tough. Asked me to introduce him at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I always remembered, I said, Coach, wait a minute now. You got 3 sons. You coached for 50 years at Neville High School. You coach 100 jillion guys. Why is it me? I'll never forget this. He goes, because I said so. I'll be there. You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, this man had coached all these people. He's got 3 sons. He wants me to introduce him at the biggest honor he's getting probably in coaching. So to say that these people here on Forsythe Avenue has had an influence in my whole life is just wow. It's unbelievable.
It's influenced not only you guys into just some great things.
Yeah.
And y'all aren't alone.
That's right.
It's influenced a lot of young men, young women walking through these halls, and that commitment to greatness. It's all everywhere. Nothing worthwhile comes easy. All of these tenets that came out of Coach Ruppel, Coach Brown, still live on here today. And speaking of influential people, y'all had influence on a lot of lives, a lot of players, a lot of young men, and we do have one local guy that I want to bring in. I want to get Robert in here. We're gonna come on, bring your chair in here. I want to get y'all three together. So we bring Robert in here, and we've talked about it, knowing that you guys were coming in for this day here at Neville. But Robert's talked about how y'all have had influence on his life, whether y'all know it or not. And I was just going to ask Robert, tell me a little bit about these two guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back to when I was a little kid, Coach Rubin over here, I'd get dressed up in my football uniform, and we had a route tree in the living room, and he's got me doing push-ups when I'm like 6 years old in the living room, and of course we had to interview, so this is my time to interview Coach Rubin. He'd get the candlestick, and after I ran the route tree, I'd be sweating, and he'd come up and he'd interview me, like I just played a game in the living room, and so, it started at an early age, and I was lucky enough to be around, people like my dad who coached football, Coach Rubin, Coach Johnson, being a part of Neville, it's tremendous, and I was around football at an early age, so that's all I knew. And also I was around Neville. I went to River Oaks in elementary, but knew that I was always going to be at Neville. It was just in my blood. So, and then Coach Johnson, he was coaching at the time. Obviously, would meet him when he would come in, and I was just a little towhead running around. But I can always remember he was at Texas A&M. We'd have the game on, and Dad say, "There's Coach Johnson." He'd be over there coaching his tail off. I mean, I just remember looking like the intensity and the passion that he coached with, was just remarkable. And then got into junior high, and Coach Rubin was at Green Bay, and I had the opportunity to go up there and work a training camp for a week as a seventh grader. Was on the field at Lambeau with Brett Favre and Doug Peterson warming up before the game, and that opportunity came because of Coach Rubin. I remember walking into the training room, and Gilbert Brown was sitting on an ice chest after practice, and I remember how big of a human being he was. Yeah, I got to go spot the ball between Reggie White and Dotson and Gilbert, during practice, and it was an unbelievable experience. So, these guys have been an influence in my life for football, but also as becoming a man. So appreciate them.
Definitely.
I'll tell you what, the Lane family goes back a long way with me and Rube. So
Sure
his
do.
grandmother, I guess, Miss Ann, she fed me a T-bone steak before every game. It was a tradition at Neville, and his uncle Cliff was my best friend, and Cliff was the first person who Coach Lay sort of put me with when I played football, and that's how we became friends, and we're lifelong friends down the Lane family is a big part of my life, so.
Mine too, and Robert and Bob are arguably probably the two best players maybe have ever come out of Neville.
Yeah, we came up with the list.
Yeah.
I think they were both on it.
They're a special family, all of them. They sure are. We love
His
them.
grandfather let me use his truck. I think I still probably owe him some money.
It was probably Uncle Cliff's fault.
Yeah, that's right. But
Well, as you got here, I mean, it's almost like it's extended family here.
No doubt.
Talk about y'all's families, and life of a coach is a tough life.
you just go back to Neville, and I don't know how Rube is, on Sundays. Sundays are pretty special day in the NFL. For me it was, and I can always remember getting on that bus, and whether we'd be in Seattle, and I would be looking at the Space Needle, or in downtown Detroit, and you see the Ford emblem up there. You could be in New York looking across the bay there, where you can see the city. And when I sat on that bus and be real quiet, I'd always think back to Neville. How did I get here? How did I get to sit here at this moment that I'm fit to go in the National Football League and play a game? And it would come back to Neville High School. And it means a lot. And it means a lot. And to be able to come back and enjoy a day like this and see everybody and that thing, and my kids, I killed my kids. A part of my kids have Neville High School, the values of Neville High School, and I'd have to say they did pretty good. One's in the NFL now doing his deal, and one's played golf all her life and now works for NBC. They're doing good, but some of the influence that they got came from Neville High School. So I think Neville High School will affect generations to come.
Barry, anything?
Yeah, there's no doubt that, you know, I just, everything that Bill said is so true, you know, and Neville and Lee kind of were the foundations of getting me going. There's no doubt about that.
Well, we really, it's great. I know when Mr. Bob called me and was we were putting a lot of this stuff together. I'm glad it's definitely worked out that y'all could both be here. I mean, with the schedules and everything, I mean, you get a bye week. You
get a bye week.
You get to come home and
And nothing wrong with a bye week.
so
No,
get to the bye week.
came at a good time.
it definitely did, and it's worked out, and it looks like it's going to be a great evening, and we're glad that y'all took the time out of y'all's day to come in and talk to me and talk to us, and I guess we're going to hopefully, what we talked about today is going to hopefully be brought out to the masses, and to the more times we can talk about the strong foundations and the things that you can get not only in life, but even through here at Neville High School, and be able to use those stories. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
And talking with you guys has been a pleasure as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's always fun to come back to Monroe, and I love Neville High School, love Monroe, and love these guys, and we're honored, for this. And one thing, Bill probably get mad at me for saying this, but he is the only guy in the whole state that has a state championship ring from Louisiana. Neville has a national championship ring from LSU, and has a Super Bowl ring from New Orleans
From
Saints.
the New Orleans Saints.
Only person in the whole state that has that.
It's the football holy trinity.
That is.
In the state
And
of
he's the
Louisiana.
only one that has that.
He may live in Georgia, but he's from Louisiana.
That's right. But if people didn't know, now they know.
Now they know.
Now they know that.
Look, guys, it's been great. It's been great. And looking forward to this evening, and we really appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
All good.
All right, thank y'all.
Robert.